Welcome, folks. I am Jaby Koay, joined by ACHARA KIRK.
Hello.
This is our non-spoiler review for Onward from Pixar, and it's directed by Dan Scanlon. It's written by Dan Scanlon, Jason Headley, Keith Boonen, starring Tom Holland, Chris Pratt, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, John Ratzenberger, Tracy Ullman, Mel Rodriguez, Octavia Spencer, Lena Waithe, and Ali Wong. I want to say right off the bat that I am aware of the other reviews that are out there after, declaring my love for this film on, was it Twitter or Instagram or where, I can't remember where the hell. Stardust, that's where it is. I declared my love for this film, and I still feel that way. I've looked at other people's feelings about it, and because there are some people out there who are like, it's fine, it's like nothing special, and I vehemently disagree. I think that this film is awesome. I think it's one of Pixar's best, definitely one of my favorites. Now, for me personally, there is probably a reason why, and it's because I lost my father. Finding Nemo and Onward are my two favorite Pixar films. So there's a number of others that I like a lot that are really high up there, but this and Finding Nemo just do it for me. They always make me cry.
Yeah.
Watched Onward twice and I cried both times. Every time I watch Finding Nemo, I find tears in my eyes. I'm like, where did that come from? I thought this was awesome. What about you?
Yeah, I loved it as well. It's such a simple but lovely story. It's a really fun adventure. The first time we watched it, I was, just so thrilled and excited. I was scared. I was completely invested in the characters and their quest. It touched me, which is what I love about Pixar movies. I really, really liked it. And if you're into that type of thing, if you have some kids and you want to go watch it with your family, I definitely recommend this.
So IMDb says, just to give you a one-liner, set in a suburban fantasy world, two teenage elf brothers embark on a quest to discover if there is still magic out there. We both got interviewed right after the first screening, because we went to two different screenings, one for, I forgot the name of the company.
They were both for Disney,
okay,
but
Disney,
one was more of an influencer thing.
So at that one, what I said was that this was better than Bright. Because both are modern day fantasies. Like, you take some of the trademark ideas from fantasy and then you modernize it and you update it to the suburban reality, or just like a modern day metropolitan city and whatnot.
Right, yeah.
And so I thought this was so much better than Bright in that regard, and how it updated things. It was very, very touching. It moved me in a number of ways. You said earlier in this, which is less than like 2 minutes ago, but you said that this was very simple. I think that it seems simple, but it's actually deceptively complex, because there are so many ideas in here that are called back to.
Yeah.
That not one part of this movie is wasted, and I think that needs to be acknowledged, because it seems like an easy thing to just call back to stuff, but it's really not. To perfectly weave in these ideas that you set up along the way, the littlest things that you think mean absolutely nothing or that you're just gonna forget about, find its way back in this film later on.
It feels like building blocks in a way, where everything that's set out in the beginning, it's almost like building a pyramid. It's like, this is the base, and these are all the skills that you're gonna need in your adventure until it culminates in the end, and you're like, oh my god!
Yeah, it's a fantasy adventure film, right? And part of that is one of the characters discovering his inner strength, his magic, his powers and whatnot. And the way that this film builds that up is so well done, in my opinion, that you are, at least I was rooting for that character, and I felt his emotions while he was going through his climax in the story, when it reaches that point. And I bought every second of it because they built it up so well along the way. And then you've got all these ancillary characters that feel like more than just ancillary characters. They feel like really important to the film, to the overall story. You could easily just throw away the mom. You could easily just throw away these other people that are introduced in the film, but they're all important and integral to the success of the story overall. Man, I cried. Oh man, I cried worse the second time than I did the first time. And I was trying because the first time I think it was a little bit easier because we were literally in the screen, right? Because there's a 50-seat theater, and ACHARA was like, we're gonna get there at 6 because that's when they said to arrive. And so always show up early to screenings if you ever get invited. Always show up early. So we sat literally at the front like that watching the movie. I think it was a little bit easier for me not to shed as much tears, but the second time I was really, oh man, I was a mess. Again, because I lost my father, and so this film is all about that, That's not a spoiler, by the way. That's like the whole adventure is basically, the main characters getting a chance to spend time with their dad one more time.
Yeah, and it's not just that, it's also just about family as a whole, which I really appreciated. It's just about the love that you have for your family, the dynamics within the family, and it's about brotherhood. I don't have brothers, but I have a sister, and so I just kind of just swapped it around and kind of put myself in their shoes if it was me and my sister. And there is something really special about that sibling relationship and just the overall love you have for your family that I think this movie really taps into.
Across the board, the voice actors did a wonderful job.
Yeah.
But of course, Tom Holland, Chris Pratt being the main ones, I just want to say that they did a fantastic job in this. Chris Pratt was perfect for this. Tom Holland was perfect for this. They both did. I mean, everyone, again, they did a great job, but like those two especially, they were just perfectly cast for these roles. I love the animation here. I mean, we sometimes forget to talk about the animation when we get wound up in the emotional aspect of things, but the animation is so beautiful in this movie. There are moments that look photoreal. It's interesting when animators decide to make something photoreal. I remember for Finding Nemo, it looked so real that they had to deliberately dial it back because it looked too real.
Okay.
So they deliberately made it look a little bit more animation, like unlike The Lion King or something like that, you know,
right, yeah.
where it just looks so photoreal. So they chose some interesting moments to make photoreal here. There's also interesting moments where Dan Scanlon employed, the only way I can phrase this is like real world filmmaking techniques, because, okay, for instance, there's this part where the characters are faced with a ravine, a drop of some kind. The camera goes into a POV, a point of view shot, and it has this kind of Hitchcockian effect. And it's not often you see that in an animation. I can't think of another animation that has done that. There's like interesting opportunities for rack focus stuff that they did, where it's like focused on one character, and then a rack focus to the other character, like real world filmmaking techniques that are not traditionally used in animation. I just thought that was really interesting. It's weird to say this, but I love the way it was shot, you know, the way it was directed was really cool. The way that they worked with the actor, I'm sure there was some improv in there, the way that Dan Scanlon worked with the actors to get that sort of comedy out of them.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris Pratt is just, you know.
I loved him as Barley, like, cause he was just giving so much energy, and then Tom Holland was pitch perfect as that sort of, you know, timid teenager who's just trying to find out who he is and just be more confident in himself. It was so good. And then, of course, I loved how they took the mythology that we know and love and just kind of flipped it on its head. Like the trash unicorns were awesome. The modern day interpretations of what these mythical creatures would be like if they were living in a small suburban town.
Right.
It was great.
I watched this twice, like I said earlier, we both did, and what I realized is this is a film you need to watch twice because there are things that they introduce along the way that you will not remember, that you will not catch, and you will have to see it a second time to catch it. Not that it's gonna, you know, make it a different film, but you will get more out of it if you watch it a second time. That's all I'm trying to say. Like, there are things that were set up and I didn't even notice, or like little comedic gags that I'm like, oh, I didn't even like, I didn't clock that the first time. I think this was totally worthwhile a second viewing. That's important. There are lots of films you see a second time and your brain kind of checks out a little bit, almost like driving on the freeway. You're like, well, I know all this, I have seen all this. But for me, watching it a second time, I was fully, I'm not even joking, I was fully engaged the entire time on my second viewing, and that rarely happens for me. And that's how I know that this film resonates so deeply with me and is so moving and important for me, personally. Again, I'm coming from a different place than most people. Like, you know, I lost my dad several years ago, and so whenever there's like dad stuff, I'm like, I'm like choking up, you know, because I feel like this film is informed by real stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes it so great.
I could feel the grown-ups sitting around us, you know, when everyone was getting emotional, we were all getting emotional at the same time, we're all crying at the same time. And meanwhile, the kids are still fully engaged. Maybe they don't understand and they're not feeling that same level of loss or fear of loss that maybe the adults are feeling, but they're still enjoying the film.
Right.
And so I think this is really great for all ages, because in the crowd that we watched it in with, there were very, very young children all the way to, you know, real grown-ups.
Without giving anything away at all, I want to say that of all Pixar films I have seen, this is the most brave ending I have seen from any Pixar film.
Yeah.
The most brave ending ever. It's like they took a big chance here. They stuck the landing really, really well. There is some questionable stuff that happens with the magic along the way that you brought up that I recognized while watching the film, but I could not care less. It's like one of those things where I was having refrigerator logic on the spot, and I'm like, you know, I don't give a shit. Like, I love this so much. I am so emotionally connected to this journey. I'm having such a blast. I was laughing so much along the way. Things that no one else in the theater was laughing at because I was so entertained by the film. I don't want to say what it was.
Yeah.
But like,
just go watch it.
Yeah.
You'll see.
The only thing that didn't stand out to me was, except for a handful of moments, was the music. That was the only thing where I'm like, there's no soundtrack here where I go, oh, that's the sound of Onward.
Oh, okay. No, I see what you mean there, but while I was watching the movie, I did have the thought of, I'm really enjoying this music.
No, right.
It's
Well,
really sweet.
There's some music
like goes with it really well.
There's some music chosen by Barley that's like fun, but I can't think of like standout motifs that are from this film. That's the only, I mean, that's not a complaint necessarily.
I may have to disagree with you, but
hum the theme song of Onward.
Okay, I can't.
Yeah, so.
But I liked it.
Yeah, that's all I'm trying to say. Story-wise, my one complaint is the Manticore? Yeah, her introduction scene bothered me. I'm not gonna say what happens again. I just wanna let y'all know what bothered me. So when you can process this later after you've watched the film. If you haven't seen it already when you're watching this review, her introduction scene bothered me a bit, and hopefully you guys understand why. I just felt like the whole thing was kind of rushed, but it's already almost 2 hours long, so I guess it had to be. I didn't even clock that it was 2 hours.
No, I thought it was an hour and a half.
Yeah, watching it twice, like the thing just flies by. The one scene that I would like to point out, and I'm not gonna tell too much information again, in the hopes of preserving the mystery of the movie as much as possible. There's a scene where the main characters, I don't remember their names, Tom Holland's character, Ian, he's listening to a cassette that his dad made. That scene was so cool to me because it's so simple, but it really speaks to real life because it's this throwaway thing that his dad made, but it means everything to him, Oh, it's making me like choke up just thinking about it. It's this idea that there are these seemingly like meaningless relics that become so meaningful to your offspring. And you never know what that's gonna be.
Right.
But this like throwaway cassette that his dad probably didn't think twice about, like it meant nothing to him. But for his son, it means everything because it's tangible.
It's tangible, yeah.
I love this movie. I would love to watch it again. I'm gonna buy it on 4K Blu-ray for sure. And I really hope you guys enjoy it. And there are some people out there who are like, oh, it's not as good as other Pixar stuff. Those people. This is, I'm just obviously being hyperbolic, but like, I love this film and I give it a very, very, very strong recommendation, especially if you're someone who is all about family or you've lost a family member or a close, whatever, you gotta watch this movie.
Yeah.
So I strongly recommend it. You guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us, and I apologize to ACHARA KIRK for hogging the microphone. Check out ACHARA KIRK on the social media. Do subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that bell icon so you get notified every time we drop another video. I am Jaby Koay. This is
ACHARA KIRK.
Peace out.